Okay, it is 6:30, and I call the regular meeting of the Milliken Board of Trustees for July 14th, 2021 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the acting town clerk please call roll?
Trustee Wakeman.
Here.
Trustee Meisner.
Here.
Trustee Granquist.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
Here.
Mayor Austin.
Here.
Trustee Long is absent.
Trustee Rodriguez is here.
Trustee Rodriguez. Sorry.
Here.
Thank you. Does anybody have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Acting town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Trustee Granquist.
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Trustee Meisner.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Do we have any citizens' comments this evening?
Yeah, I have a comment. I would like to say something about.
Okay, so citizens' comment is a point in the meeting where the public is invited to address the town board on items except agenda items for which there is a public hearing. Public comment on public hearing items will occur during the scheduled public hearing. All comments should be directed to the town board. There's a 3-minute limit per speaker. Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. Sir?
It's up here.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Johnson. I own a piece of property at 101 Broad Street, and have problems trying to get rid of it. And have a police report, and basically I don't agree with it. And from what I understand, the Internal Affairs Department is supposed to handle the police report and do any kind of criminal investigation. And so them calling it not a criminal case is not in their say, and that's what they did. So I'd like to be able to go to court and present my evidence.
I'm a little unclear what you're speaking about. You own property at what address, sir?
101 Broad Street, 101.
Oh, 101. Okay, now
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
And so as it stands now, I'm paying taxes just as much as a 4-bedroom house on an empty lot is what they've kind of got me up to. And I've had a couple instances where people call me back and said that the property doesn't exist according to the ladies down in the office. And I had another instance where they told them that $10,000 to $30,000 more than the water share would be. And I had another instance where they said they wouldn't put a modular on there. So I'm having basically a conflict of interest because I can't sell my property if the city's not giving out right information, which is not in their realm to be doing that.
And you, okay.
And it's a criminal offense. You can call it fraud or extortion, whatever you want to call it. But they investigated over here in the police office, but they can't investigate criminal activity. So.
Okay, I'm going to recommend that you make an appointment with our town administrator.
Okay.
To go through the facts. Do you know our town administrator?
No, I
Cheryl
don't.
Bell? Okay. This is Cheryl Bell, our town administrator.
We spoke on the phone.
Oh, did we? Yeah, okay. Well, I spoke to her and she never called me back. So.
Oh, me?
No, I spoke to somebody, one of the council members on the phone.
I called you back.
Oh.
I talked to you firsthand, and I actually got your email address, and I passed the information on to people that in our department that could help you with that. But could you contact me? Would
Yep.
you contact me? I'll give you my card,
Okay.
and we can have further conversations.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? Okay, citizens' comment is now closed.
Where that is.
What?
I would like to know exactly where that property is.
It's the northeast corner of the intersection of Broad and...
It's the one that used to have the fence around it.
Yeah, just north of the middle school.
Okay, that's what I was.
Does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it used to have a big fence around it.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Citizens' comment is now closed. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion or comments on the minutes of June 23rd, 2021? Everybody happy with them? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve June 23rd, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Acting Town Clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Miesner?
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't at that meeting.
Trustee Granquist?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Next up is our Town Administrator's Report. Administrator Powell.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a few items. The trees have been planted at Outlot D and Colony Point subdivision. I have not been out there to see them yet. I'm doing that on Friday, but from my understanding, it looks very nice. Burning bushes have been planted in Fireman's Park and sod laid there as well. That was just laid today. So it really improved the look of that area. Sidewalk repairs have been made around town. Scott and his crew have been working on those. The equipment that we had leased from Bobcat of the Rockies, which was a mini-X and a skid steer, are being returned or have been returned. Our attorney, Matt Gould, did not agree with some of the areas of the contract that was presented to us from Bobcat of the Rockies. They were not willing to make any changes to that contract. So those have been returned, and we will be reviewing the lease language for Caterpillar is one, and John Deere. So we'll do that one, and we have copies of both those leases. We'll have Matt do that when he returns from his vacation.
And we can have Matt explain the problems with the Bobcat of the Rockies language that he found concerning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. The town this past week has received a little over $1 million of the American Rescue Plan funds, which was very nice. We will most likely receive an additional amount of $700 and some $1,000 later this year or next year of that money. So that was kind of a nice gift to the town. We received the draft of the Second Amendment of the IGA with Greeley regarding water services, which was important for us to have the conversation we did tonight regarding that first use water. Within this IGA, Greeley is agreeing to treat our Greeley Loveland water, but we need to see to make sure that for certain they will treat it and what volume they'll treat it at. So I'll be meeting with them, Forrest, Scott Holwick, and Don Stonebrink next Wednesday. So I'll let you know what happens there. There's just a few sticking points on the contract or the IGA, and it looks good overall, but there's a few questions we had.
Okay.
So, and that was it.
Thank you. Any questions
Thank you.
for the Town Administrator? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our consent agenda. We have a stormwater drain easement agreement. I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Acting Town Clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Granquist?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Miesner?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. The only item on our action agenda is consideration of adoption for Resolution 21-13. Cheryl Powell, Town Administrator.
Yes, Mayor and members of the board. This is a resolution addressing or outlining the incentives that we had spoken about in a couple of work sessions. It doesn't define anything for sure that we would do, but it provides some ideas of what we may do. I think it's important to have a resolution stating that we would be willing to work with businesses if they choose to come to town. And it may incentivize them more to come to Milliken versus another community. Most municipalities do have incentive policies, and I thought it would be important for us to have one as well.
So if we come up with something creative outside of this, we don't have to come back to the board necessarily, or
No.
how does that work?
If somebody came to us asking for something that is kind of outside of what's listed in here, that board or the town staff did not feel comfortable in doing, we would of course come back to you and speak to you about it to get your approval. So.
One thing I didn't quite define here is what is the crossover of, is there a dollar amount or a certain breadth of scope that goes from the staff's option to approve? To where
I
it
think
comes
if
from
it's
the board?
anything significant, of course, we would come to you. I would not feel comfortable making that decision without board approval. If somebody came in and say, well, we'd be happy, this, for an example, we would love to build here you know, such and such business, but we need 2 shares of CBT water. Would the town be willing to do that? I would not make that decision. But if somebody came in and said, well, would you help us with a sewer tap or a water tap or something along those lines, or defer those costs, I would probably feel a little more comfortable in doing that.
Does this resolution survive you if for some reason you were to stop fulfilling that role with the town? Because that's my concern.
Of course it would, yes, it would.
So my concern is not necessarily with your abilities and decision-making, but if this resolution survives you and someone else steps into that role and there's no specific limitation, whether it be dollar amount or in other ways, you know, who defines what a significant impact of the town is, I think it would be good to have some type of a definitive boundary of, okay, anything up to X dollar amount or anything up to, you know, some way of encapsulating, here's the decision making you're allowed to do. You know, other areas I'm involved in, like if it's up to 5,000, you can make a decision. It goes beyond 5,000 and it's, you know, needs to roll over to the board. Some type of a capsule is just in my mind, unless there's already something existing.
Yeah, there's a financial policies that the town administrator and
Correct.
have to follow. So certainly that would be a driving guideline, but also it's up to the board to direct the town administrator on what they expect, each town administrator that they have. I think that the reason that this is open and somewhat ambiguous in a way is because there's a difference between getting in a coffee shop, like what we did with Lynette. Cheryl negotiated the rent and took care of those things and then brought it to the board, you know, for our approval. But yet if a grocery store was to come in, well, that would be significantly different. And that's the way that I look at it. But how does everybody else look at it?
I would concur.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
And I understand where you're coming from, but we have financial policy in place that I think would help with
I
that.
think you're right, that covers.
Okay.
Other questions, concerns, comments from the board?
I would just ask if there's a way to communicate with the board what businesses are taking advantage of what incentives so that they're at least somewhat
absolutely.
informed.
Yeah, I think that's very important because, you know, or if they do. But I think when they do, we definitely would bring that to the board as far as at least notifying you of this.
Trustee Meisner, do you have anything?
I'm fine.
Rodriguez, Trustee Wakeman?
I certainly see Trustee
There.
Derek, right? Your points, and I think that they're valid. It's difficult for us to just kind of do something open-ended, but I agree that the financial policy also regulates that. So.
To me, as long as there's something in place, that's not just an open blank check.
Right.
No.
Oh, correct.
not that we're concerned about your use of it, but I'm thinking more
And
the
I'm not
next.
going anywhere for quite a while, so.
There we go.
I'm thinking if
not
nobody
planning on
plans
it.
to, it just happens sometimes.
But the financial
I don't
policies
have
should
any.
cover that.
All right, I think we've covered everything. There's no further discussion. I'll take a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution 21-13, a resolution of the Town of Milliken for an economic development incentive policy.
I'll
Second.
second. Third.
Okay. Acting Town Clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Wakeman,
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Trustee Meisner,
Yes.
Trustee Grandquist,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich,
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. That concludes the major portion of our business tonight. We now have the discussion agenda, which is open for a discussion on fireworks. As many of you are aware, Chief Garcia had an officer dedicated to fireworks surveillance for the night of July 4th. It's been reported back that there were 14 or
16, I
16
believe.
tickets written for fireworks that left the ground, which is not allowed in our town. It is also a statewide violation for fireworks leaving the ground. The town of Milliken decided that we would give latitude and allow residents to shoot off sparklers and fountains and things that did not leave the ground. And correct me if I'm wrong, Administrator Powell, when you checked into this, this is a Class 3 misdemeanor?
Yeah, so actually CML in their newsletter had recently issued a statement regarding fireworks. And yes, a lot of municipalities have fines that go along with this, and it also, they did classify it as a Class 3 misdemeanor. So, which could be fine and jail time,
And I believe that was 6 months jail time?
up to.
Up to 6 months jail time. We record a record that we go up to $3,000. Now, how does that play into this type of fine? We have our prosecuting attorney, Fred Long, substituting for Matt tonight, so it's kind of good timing. Could you please comment on that for us and help us understand the fine portion of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, most towns or surrounding towns have a specific fine set forth in their fine schedule for fireworks violations. Milliken does not, but so it would fall within our general penalty ordinance, which says that we can go up to, it's $2,650, which is what we're limited at by state statute, being court of record for a municipal court, and or 364 days in jail. Those are kind of our jurisdictional limits for our municipal court. I did have a chance to, because I knew that we had a bunch of these citations coming in, so I looked at the fines of surrounding communities. There were some that were as low as $250, but most of them were around the $1,000 ballpark. Fort Collins, for example, is a $1,000 fine. I want to say it was Greeley. I looked at a lot, but there were a few that were at $750. I think I found one that went as high as $2,000, and that was the highest that I found. So that's the framework that we would probably be looking at for something like this. As far as how I, as a prosecutor, would handle specific cases, I don't want to make a blanket statement because each case is a little bit different, and I think it'd be improper for me as a prosecutor to say, no matter what, I'm going to handle something this way. With that said, if this is somebody's first offense coming in on a firework, that's one thing. If it's their third, right, then that's an aggravating circumstance, and I'd maybe handle it a little bit different. I'm hesitant to say specifically right now without having a specific case report in front of me exactly how I would handle any given case. I think it'd be inappropriate to do so. Mm-hmm. That said, I have done research and I have a general idea of what these types of citations are being prosecuted or how they're being prosecuted, and I'll stay within those bounds.
So at this point, I think that Milliken has some unique issues in our town that some of the other towns do not face. people move to Milliken, they know they're moving into an agricultural community, and we are surrounded by a lot of farms, a lot of crops growing. Some are drier than others. And we have Chief West here to comment on the fire danger. And I want to speak for the other board members. I know I don't want to wait until somebody's house burns down or somebody gets hurt before we enforce the law. I did have a number of residents come to me rather upset. They didn't feel that they could speak out, especially if they were being bullied on social media. They're like, some of these people live in my neighborhood. I'm being silenced. If I say anything, it creates problems in the neighborhood. We rescued quite a number of dogs on July 4th. The next day, we had a Rottweiler beneath a Jeep, And we've got livestock all around us. You don't desensitize horses and cows and things like that. So the biggest problems is the fireworks started 2 weeks in advance, random times, people couldn't prepare. Furthermore, we've got adults showing children, hey, it's okay to disregard the law if you don't agree with it. So then that just perpetuates and creates a bigger problem. I think that the board members have their opinions that they need to voice at the same time. But if we're going to discourage it, we need to discourage it without being overly punitive, especially for those first-time people.
And in addition to that, Mayor, I think the town and the police department did a fairly good job of getting the word out on our social media pages in regards to the fireworks. You can obtain fireworks in the state, but those are the legal fireworks that you can do, that consist of fountains and sparklers and things like that. And then there's those that are illegal, which our neighboring state sells. And, those were the ones that we're addressing during the citations. So I think the town did the best it could in getting the word out to residents, what types of fireworks were not acceptable. So.
Yeah. Comments from the board? Penny?
I personally don't like fireworks, number one. And I think that it is ridiculous for the town to have fireworks displays and then punitively target people who are basically shooting off exactly the same kind of fireworks that the town supports. That's my own personal opinion.
I understand your point, and I did look at that because somebody had brought that up to me. And because it is a professional display, that we do have to pay the fire department to be out there. They're dedicated on site while those fireworks are being shot off. And there's a specific time frame for it, along with the fact that they're put into firework racks. They're not just shot off from the ground. So, it's something that maybe that as a town we need to take a look at. Maybe we need to look at a laser light show on Beef and Bean Day instead of the fireworks. Everything's on the table. But having residents shoot off illegal fireworks is a bigger problem for me. You're right in a residential neighborhood where you can set houses on fire. And we don't ever set off fireworks in residential neighborhoods.
I think for me, if it's an organized thing like that, I don't have that conflict because of the safety measures that are put in place. It is a scheduled thing. So if you have a skittish dog or something, you can give them medication or something ahead of time for that versus like even, we had issues where you're going in and this is a week ahead of time. You're just walking into your house. You just got home and boom, you got rattled, you wheel around like somebody just shot you. So I think the issues are, it's not, it's not like they send out a notice to all the neighbors that, hey, we're going to show up, shoot a firework off. Are you all ready for it? Or, something like that. There is the noise and the disturbance. I think the fireworks to me are something I grew up with. It's a patriotic thing in and of itself. Yes, it's a fire hazard, but I agree with the patrioticness of it. And that's why I think having a scheduled time when everybody knows it's from this time to this time. If you've got a skittish dog, you can be with them or whatever it might be. You can take measures both on the fire aspect to prevent fire issues and noise abatement and other things like that. I think those can all be addressed versus the individual. And my answer to someone who says, well, what about our freedoms? Well, I agree with those, but then I think they need to be, if you contest with that and you disagree, ignorance or disregarding the law is not the answer to that. The answer to that is come and present maybe other opportunities or other thoughts to the board and let us change the law if that's what needs to happen. But I don't think that's the public consensus. I think it's probably a narrow few that want to do that. And I'm all for the freedoms, but you can go a lot further east and enjoy those where it's very moist and not dry. And there's other concerns that we have in this area. And so our freedoms end where someone else's freedom begins, and their freedom to have peace and not be in flames and et cetera. I think it's the same thing of a noise issue.
I also am concerned about people with PTSD. Having a military family, that's pretty severe for them. Being a little girl, we used to have an area during the 4th of July in which the fire department and the town worked together for everybody in the town to come together and shoot fireworks off in a safe location. And it was monitored versus us going out in our own yard. And maybe that's something we can look at where everybody, if you want to shoot off fireworks, having a safe zone for the community to go to that is monitored versus being in your driveway or backyard.
Almost like a firing range.
Periodically.
I'm thinking it's the same kind of a thing. You safe on the range, everybody goes down, change out your targets, you come back, okay, light them up, whatever it might be. I like that. If you have some of your favorite firework, Thunder Kings, and you want to shoot that off every year, it's your tradition, and you want to have your kid lighted or something, having a safe, an environment where you can do that, that's not right on the street and then,
And the community all got together, and the fire department was there, ambulance, just in case somebody got hurt. So it was one central location for everybody.
That makes sense.
So, any other comments from the board? Chief West, would you please join us for this discussion?
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
So I guess I'll start by asking, is there a specific question you want me to address? I've been curious about the conversation. I agree with a lot of the points that you've made. I think in our area, the illegal fireworks tend to cause us problems because of the agricultural nature of our community. When I look at the history of fires related to fireworks and calls related to fireworks, they tend to be, in this area, they tend to be related to field fires more than structural fires, at least in the 2 years that I've been with Front Range. That certainly makes sense, right? When you think about that. Of course, one of the mitigating factors comes down to weather. So this year, we had significantly less related fires than we did in 2020, even though when you think back to 2020, we were kind of shut down. We were a little bit more subdued. But when you look back at the weather pattern for the 2 weeks right before 4th of July, we were significantly wetter this year than we were last year. So there's always a hand-in-hand relationship with the weather and the things that we see. I think to all of your points is the organized displays, the legal displays where a vendor or an operator actually provides those downrange. They plan on where those drop zones are going to be for the mortar shells. Grass is cut very low to minimize, even if there is a grass fire, it's not gonna move as quickly. Weather is taken into a concern, and then afterwards we go downrange to make sure that there's no hot shells or embers that are gonna cause fires later on. And frankly, it's those trained and safe operators that are focused on the safety of the show rather than the entertainment. They're not a part of the entertainment as they're lighting the fuse. They're providing the entertainment, if you will. Right. So it's those significant things that I think are the difference between the illegal and the legal firework displays. The other thing that you haven't discussed, which is something that is very personal to me, I was probably about 6 years old when I watched my father setting off illegal fireworks in the street and managed to get a trip and light several fuses at the same time, and he ended up in a burn center. So it's the safety aspects also when we're out in our neighborhoods and we light fires and we add a little bit of alcohol to that and the party atmosphere and there's kids running around. It is the injuries that we also see because of it as well, which is every bit from our call perspective. When you look at our year-to-year call perspective, our medical calls outweigh our fire calls significantly, and it's related to that. So, Is there any questions I can answer beyond that?
Did we have any fires this year? Because it did seem to be pretty damp.
It was, there were no fires this year around the 4th of July. And there again, were significant number of calls. Our calls go up every time there's a big event, holiday weekend like that. But there were more medical this time.
Did we have any people that got hurt in town?
Not from fireworks in town, yes.
What's your thought on Trustee Rodriguez's comment on having like dog park or some area that they can light their own?
I've never heard that before. I think it's a unique solution. I would absolutely be interested in looking at other communities that have done that to see what their procedures are and their success rate, and what type of regulations they do to make sure that everything's safe. If it can be done safely, we'd certainly be interested in helping out with that.
I think that's something that we should pursue.
Yeah.
And have a scheduled time for it. So that's not going out 2 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah, just like going to the gun range, you don't just
That
sit
might
in the
cut
back.
down on people shooting them off all hours of the day and night.
I agree. I want people to enjoy their holiday. I want them to have fun. But I don't want to see it at the expense of other people. So I think we need to strike that balance.
I agree, and I think that if we can come up with a solution like that, I certainly would be interested in seeing anything that we can do to help.
Okay. Something else to add to your task list there, Administrator Powell?
I thought you volunteered. So how does the parking lot at the fire department look?
That's probably not. Probably a little too close to buildings.
Okay.
And a very old building, as I might add. So.
I'm trying to solve two issues at once. Close to you,
Close, that would be close to us. You're right.
and a big enough space.
Probably a certain gravel lot or pit might work.
They used a basketball court is what
did
it
they?
was, and then the driveway next to Town Hall.
Oh, look, we got an entire parking lot next to Town Hall. Cheryl, right next to your office.
Okay, well, we...
And it's fairly
we'll be
close to us.
talking.
It's fairly close to us.
Shoot them out over Centennial Park.
That will be on my task list.
Yeah. Any other questions for Chief Webb? Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Absolutely.
You
Thank you
pretty
for
much
the
hit the
invite.
nail on the head on what we wanted to know.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further business before the board? Any comments, concerns?
Mayor, I'd only add one other thing real quick on the fireworks discussion, which would be that if the town wants to have a clear, concise message, not just for citizens, but also me as a prosecutor, if you wanted to amend your fine schedule so that it was a specific fine, so there'd be no question about how it's going to be enforced, what the fine amount would be, all the rest of it. That's something that you guys could certainly look at and come back to. So then, if and when we get to this time next year and people are shooting off illegal fireworks, you can say, look, it's in our fine schedule. We went over this last year. You know exactly what the punishment's going to be, rather than leaving it up to a case-by-case basis. You know what the fine is.
Well, I think that's something we should discuss with the board because I don't like to see, I like to see things applied somewhat evenly across the board and not somebody receiving favoritism or It needs to be fair.
Yeah, agreed. So you could even have first offense, second offense, third offense, that type of thing in your fine schedule, and it eliminates that, difference in treatment that you'd be concerned about.
Thank you. Anything else? Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're out.